Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Scenes, podcast for Out of Frame. I'm your host, Sean Malone, creator of Out of Frame, creative director for the Foundation for Economic Education. With me, as always, is our senior writer, Jennifer Maffasanti, and editor, Paul Nelson. How you guys doing?
Yeah, doing well. Having a good day.
Mm-hmm. Having a good day.
Yeah, great day.
Today on the show, we're going to get to, in a little bit, The Boys on Amazon Prime. Season 2 just started. Well, a few episodes in at this point. But mostly we're probably going to talk about Season 1 today. Before we get to that, though, what are you guys watching apart from The Boys?
Well, you know, still chugging away, getting through Legend of Korra with the kiddos. And we're really enjoying that. We're deep into Season 2 now. So things are happening. Stuff's getting real. Very exciting. But what I've been just doing for myself is I finally finished my reread of The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, and
not to be confused with Billy Butcher.
With Billy
not
Butcher.
to be
Another
confused.
Boys
No,
already.
Hey,
Tie-ins.
but you know, I had forgotten how good the last, I don't know, call it 5 installments so far in this series are with just character work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of implied action that goes on just outside of the scope of each novel that builds up all of these characters around it. And it's not just our POV character, Harry Dresden. It's all of the people around him, and they're experiencing things out away from him and learning and growing and changing from that. And it's just wonderful. Like, I genuinely recommend these books. If you started them, didn't like the first few, just get to at least
just
book
keep
4.
reading. Just read the next 12. You'll get there.
You'll get there. No,
Eventually.
the plot really starts picking up and getting exciting at about book 4. And then
See, this is like me trying to get Marion to watch Smallville with me, where I was like, look, the first season is terrible. The second season, okay, fair. That's also terrible. But by like season 4 or 5. So let's just slog through.
Yeah.
the first 3 are actually really interesting mystery stories. So they're enjoyable stories just on their own. But once we get to book 4, bigger, broader implications.
Yeah.
The scope of the action changes a
Did
lot.
you say you liked the show version of this?
I hated the show
Hated
version
the
of
show.
this.
See, all right.
Oh.
So can't watch the show. Have to read
12 books.
12 books before I get there.
Oh, quit whining.
I mean,
Uphill climb.
How many
uphill climb.
How many Marvel movies have you seen?
Yeah, but they don't take 12 of them to get good.
Well,
Iron Man's good. Right out of the gate, Iron Man is good.
listen, Stormfront book 1 is good. It's just they continue to get better.
Right?
You're like throwing in the boys connections right away.
Listen,
Oh,
It's
man.
almost like she planned this.
Almost, but it wasn't. But
No.
Give me
for
a
those
little
listening, no actual plan here to bring up Storefront and Storefront, Stormfront, and Billy Butcher and whatnot. But yeah, Storefront. What? All right. Anyway, my God, you know what I've been watching does not take multiple seasons or even multiple episodes to get good.
Harumph
Is Raised by Wolves, which I got to say, there's a little bit of annoyance that I have about the way that it was released, and I don't even understand how this worked. We have HBO Max through Hulu, which a lot of people do. I mean, because it's like an add-on to Hulu that you can do. For some reason, Raised by Wolves is not available on the add-on version of it, but you can download the HBO Max app, sign in using your Hulu account, and get access to Raised by Wolves.
Because that makes total sense.
wizard.
I don't know why. Yeah, it's actually HBO Max treats the Hulu account like a cable provider.
Interesting.
It's like in its list of possible cable providers.
As long as they're getting that check, they don't care.
Yeah, except for then why not just let
Yeah,
me
so-
watch it on Hulu where I am I don't know, whatever. It's a whole other thing. But the show wasn't created, I don't think anyway. It's a Scott-free production, but I don't think it was created by Ridley Scott, but Ridley Scott directs the first few episodes. and it feels like Ridley Scott. It's, I mean, and even the themes of it basically is the last surviving infants, essentially, they're really embryos as they are being rocketed away from a dying, not even a dying Earth, it's a war-torn sort of hellscape of Earth, are sent to another planet with a couple of android guardians.
This is going to turn out well.
And, well, yeah. So I don't know how this is what I'm actually really enjoying about the show, actually, is because the androids are raising the kids, or they're, you know, I don't even want to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil anything. They're raising the kids. We'll leave it at that.
So the androids are the wolves.
I don't know. This is the thing. I don't know yet, because the androids are like there's a sort of a male and a female android meant to be mother and father. And that's their names. Their character names are mother and father. And mother is like some really fancy special android that not only was able to actually help with the gestation and like feeding and all of that of the embryos as they were traversing the stars. So she's literally their mother in a lot of ways. She also is like a refurbished like war model of some kind. I am spoiling a little bit. I apologize, because this is a little bit of a thing. But she has like terrifying powers that are not clear right away. And I mean, it's in episode 1, so I'm not spoiling too much. But the father is he doesn't have all of those abilities. He's just a more normal kind of android. He seems really great though. Like, he's a really good guy. He's making jokes, like dad jokes all the time. He's trying to like make knock jokes and come up with ways of entertaining the kids and still be very, very like a dad kind of character. But what I'm loving about the show is that I'm like, 5 episodes in now, and I have no idea where it's going. I don't know if the androids are going to be super evil at some point. I don't know, because they've had moments where you might think that they're going to be, but they're actually really protecting the kids or whatever. There are some other characters that are involved that, like other humans that have come to the planet. I don't know if they're going to be the bad guys. It's not clear to me where they're headed, but everybody's character is really clear to me. Like, I know who everybody is. I know what this android is. And I know what mother and father are. I know who the new humans are. And it's all done in like the same vibe, like, I would say this because it almost makes it sound worse than it is, but like Prometheus, like it's not done. The plot is not Prometheus, but the planet looks like that planet, and it feels a lot like the world of Alien, you know? And yeah, it's good. I'm really enjoying it.
Okay.
It's probably my favorite new thing right now, and certainly I would recommend to people.
We needed to do at the end of the year. We need to do a like top 3 or 5 shows and movies of the year. Well, movies might be tough, thanks COVID, but I mean, like a top list.
Yeah, we could do like a top of the last decade instead, and then just discount 2020.
Yeah, top 2019. Yeah, more rankings.
Yeah, I like that idea. What are you watching?
Well,
Nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing besides The Boys, really, honestly, because we'll kind of get into this, but I hadn't watched it last year when it came out. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason we hadn't decided to do an episode on this yet, but I actually started watching it on my own volition. And the reason is because Amazon changed it from the stupid binge model to weekly releases.
Me too.
It doesn't make any sense, because so for me, I'm like, okay, if I get 2 seasons behind and everyone's talking about it, I'm not going to be able to watch 16, 20 hours of, I don't have that kind of time in my life right now. And then you miss the opportunity to talk about it, something culturally, with your friends. And once they made the decision of releasing the first 3 episodes and then everything is a week after that, I'm like, oh, I can catch up. And I can get back on track before the end of the second season. So I started it, and I'm glad they went that way, because, I don't understand why the Netflix model makes no sense to me. They don't make any money.
Well, so I think I talked about this in the Netflix, in the streaming media Out of Frame episode, but it was interesting to me that the reason that happened, I don't know, maybe I didn't talk about this in the actual episode, but it came up in my like research on it, was the reason that the binge model happened was because when Netflix was doing DVD mailing, what they were finding was that people were like within the span of like a day, basically, but like a weekend or whatever, within their like rental period, whatever, they were going through entire seasons of shows because you could get one season at a time, and so they would send you out, a couple discs, and people over a weekend would do that, and they would mail them right back, and the next thing on the queue was the next season. So Reed Hastings was looking at the data, seeing that people were really like they were binging shows. They were already doing it if they were on DVD.
I think that's fine, but the difference, I think, and it's a big difference, this wasn't new content. This would be like
it's true. You're catching up
season
on something,
2
or
when
you're
it's Big Bang season
right
13. So
it is 13.
It's done now, but it's
too many.
Yeah. I'm back and forth on that.
It is.
Thought it was real dumb.
Have you ever seen it without the laugh tracks?
I don't care.
It's so cringy.
It's 22 minutes of characters that are actually kind of likable and just
mostly likable.
Yeah, just having a laugh.
I don't find Sheldon to be very likable.
I find it all very cringy. Not gonna lie.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about this again, now that I'm like actually reviewing my feeling, Wolowitz is not very likable.
They're all terrible people.
But they all have arcs. And this is like, it's not like Friends where
I know what's Johnny Galecki's character's name? I don't even remember. He's the main character on the show. I don't even remember.
Well, Sheldon turns into the main character.
Does he? Oh,
because he's
Sheldon and the other
one.
one.
He's the funny one.
I can't remember.
All right,
I can't
fine,
remember.
whatever.
But anyways,
it doesn't matter.
But anyways,
shut your brain off.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now.
But it doesn't make any sense to put new content out where it only stays in the public eye for a week tops.
Yeah, I do. I'm somewhat sympathetic to that argument because I do think that it's interesting. I also think there are some other costs to doing it that way too, which is like the way the network model worked was if a show was really big, you could use that as a launch pad for either related content or even for like not even super related content that you figured would fit sort of a similar audience. Especially with sitcoms or whatever, you could put a show like Big Bang Theory, which is drawing millions and millions of viewers, and then you launch some new sitcom right next to it, and with the hope that somebody will just continue watching. Now, of course, in a world of streaming media and YouTube and stuff, like my choice with respect to what to continue watching.
It's your choice.
Well, no, but I do because if Netflix try, and because they do try to do this, like Amazon Prime they all try to do this to some extent, is like Hulu is maybe the worst at this, where they were like, you'll finish a show or finish, catching up on a show, and they'll be like, next episode, and it's something else. And you know what I do? Bail.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to watch whatever random thing that they're sending me.
Right. And so we have Disney Plus. I'm going to watch The Mandalorian. And the only time I go to Disney Plus is when I watch The Mandalorian. That's the only time I actually kind of poke around the app.
Yeah.
Because other than that, there's nothing on there for me. It's a lot of stuff from our kids, but like with The Boys, I found myself before that not watching. I love a lot of the Amazon stuff. Love Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I love like most of their stuff. I actually pretty much enjoy, but I had kind of gotten out of going into the app. And so
I find Amazon's app to be not well organized.
That too. But when I got back into it, I found myself looking around Amazon and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to watch that. I'll watch this, putting stuff onto like a list of what I want to watch.
Yeah.
And the only reason is because I actually have a chance to catch up. And this week when it comes out, I'm sure we'll be talking to each other after we watch it and wouldn't have that conversation at all.
That's true. And I do think that's fair. And that is something that like Game of Thrones, I think, banked on week after week after week, right? Like every week, the debate would be like, don't you dare spoil, it's Sunday night or whatever. If you say anything until like Tuesday, like, you're the worst human being on the planet. But it gets harder to do when you've got the whole season. Because then it's like, well, I don't want to spoil it, but also the entire season is out. So
you can't talk about anything.
Yeah, I can't talk about it.
So I think The Mandalorian, 1, it was good. But 2,
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been a cultural movement as it was without being in the eye of the public for 2 months.
I think you're right. I think there's aspects to it. That said, as just a personal note, I like binge. I like being able to like just burn through those kinds of seasons. And, look, maybe that's also a character flaw in a sense, because it is like a super high time preference thing where you're like, I must have this. I can't delay gratification. I must watch this today. But I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to be able to just get the full story, Man, by the way, I don't want to go on a huge tangent on this, but Mandalorian Season 2 trailer's out.
It's gorgeous.
Very excited.
I'm interested.
Very excited. I
would like to learn more.
Yes, I would like to learn more.
Yeah.
Throwback.
I guess I would like to know more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This is probably the only show left going that I am actively looking forward to.
I wonder.
Like,
I was actively looking forward to The Boys Season 2. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that's close for me now. But like October 30th, I know where I'm going to be that night.
Yeah.
Fair.
Right.
Yeah. I think that is a big distinction. That is probably maybe the best distinction of like what you're really genuinely looking forward to and what you're just, I'll watch that when it comes out, right? Like, I think movies are like that too. Like, are you going to be opening night?
Right.
Do you have to be there opening night? Or are you like, I'll get to it,
Yeah.
And Mandalorian is definitely one of those where I'm like, I'll be there opening night.
Yes, I will be there opening night as well.
I really like, I was talking about this before, shouting out another YouTuber, but Critical Drinker had a video on Mandalorian, on the trailer, and he complained a little bit about, like, was pretty positive about it overall, but like he complained a little bit about the idea that it was a similar story arc, or it seems like it's going to be a similar story arc to the first season, where basically the beats of the plot, or at least not even so much an arc, but just really the plot beats are going to be, Mandalorian has Baby Yoda and has to take him to some other place, But I think it seems substantially different to me, because it's one thing to be on your heels the whole series, which, season 1 is really Mandalorian defending Baby Yoda from being attacked. It's
a very reactive kind of plot.
And it feels like season 2 is going to be very proactive.
Yes.
And very driven by, now I have a mission, now I know where I'm going.
And this is the way.
I feel like it is the way. So
pumped.
I don't know. And then also, like, you're not gonna eliminate Baby Yoda. Because A, Baby Yoda. Yeah. B, like, he is your central plot motivator. So I mean, he's the inciting incident of everything that happened, and he's still around. His arc has not been resolved, unless Mandalorian just now exists with a little Baby Yoda. I guess he's just now the parent of this guy. But
and Baby Yoda has some serious comedic timing chops.
Yeah.
Like,
so question though, before we get into the boys, Baby Yoda, reincarnation, other character.
Other character.
Yeah?
I think so. Because Yoda's ghost is still around, man.
That's true.
No, it's definitely not a reincarnation, but it's also talking about Star Wars where there's clones.
Clones?
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that one.
But there's
Seattle.
Yes. So it could theoretically be a full species. And
well, it is.
I mean, yes, obviously.
Somewhere.
But
yeah.
I don't think it's not. I hope it has nothing to do with it. I hope he has that child. I hope the child has nothing to do with Yoda.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like,
I kind of agree. I definitely hope that there's no. I don't want it to be a reincarnation or whatever. I kind of don't want it to be a clone. I hadn't really thought about the clone idea, but I kind of don't want it to be that either, just because I do like the idea of like this species of just ultra force sensitive beings that kind of Yoda.
It's Yoda's grandson.
Yeah, right. It's Yoda's grandson. I mean, Yoda's such a mysterious character otherwise, because you really have no You know, we meet him at 900 years old. Well, we meet him at 800 years old, or 800 and some, whatever. But, you know, he's 900.
Yeah.
He's lived decent life. Mm-hmm. And we know a tiny, tiny fraction of what that contained.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think we have to mine that for stories.
I think that's one of the things I appreciate most is like, there's obviously some things that call back to the movies, but it's pretty much its own thing, just set in the universe.
Yeah. Well, now let me ask you one more question about while we're on the Mandalorian subject. Is he going to find an Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Kenobi? Is that going to happen?
I thought no, because this is set after.
Is this after?
No,
this is after Obi-Wan's dead. You're right.
Yes.
Shoot.
There's a character in the one of the cartoons that I think it's kind of been confirmed that he'll find.
Are we thinking about? Well, I don't know if we want to. Like Ahsoka?
Mm-hmm. Ahsoka, yeah.
Well, that'd be cool, actually.
I think that's the way they're going.
I'd be actually
played by Rosario Dawson.
Ooh, no. I think if you're thinking about, yeah.
Okay.
That's the last I heard.
I'm so here for it.
All right, I'll take a look at that. I know there was something where there was some Jedi character in the trailer that people said was Rosario Dawson.
That's not Rosario Dawson. That's actually a WWE wrestler.
That's what
Sasha Banks.
Yeah, that's what I had read about it. I don't really know. Yeah. I'm not WWE fan, so I didn't recognize her. But also I can recognize her as not being Rosario.
No, it's obviously not.
but I don't know. Some people got that wrong. I'm not really sure what happened there, but.
Things were happening. People got confused.
People were too excited for the idea that she was going to be in it. Yeah. Well, I'm here for that. I'm not a huge fan of Clone Wars. I'm okay with the movie. I actually like the Clone Wars movie. No, not. Sorry, let me not attack the clone, but like the animated movie, Clone Wars.
Oh, okay. So it's the movie, not the TV show.
Not the TV show.
Gotcha.
The movie that they did before they did the TV show.
Okay.
So this is now I'm deep into it.
15 years ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But what that I liked, there's a little bit of like a Samurai Jack quality to it. It's really cool. A lot of good animation in that, and it's mostly 2D animation. It's not like the way that they did the 3D stuff. But it's like Mace Windu plays a huge role in the movie, and you just get little bits of like some of the Jedi that were sort of on the outside of the movies that you really didn't know very much about, but which there's lore, but there's like Mace Windu. Oh, he's like the most powerful guy ever, and of course in the movies Sam Jackson doesn't do that much and then dies, which you're like, well, he's like the most powerful ever, except for he was not able to figure out that Palpatine was Sith when he was literally in the room with him, and then is not even on guard enough to like be prepared for him to lightning bolt him, whatever. Yeah. Which I just feel like was a little weak. A little bit of a weak exit for him. But Clone Wars, you get to see him peak Mace Windu and stuff like that. But I like, from the Clone Wars, I really like Ahsoka Tano. And I like that her relationship. Mm-hmm. And I actually I
loved her story arc.
I think Anakin is a much better character in the Clone Wars series.
Oh, for sure.
Than he is in the prequels. So.
Oh, yes.
For sure.
Like, you actually get, like, oh, he's good. He's heroic. He does cool stuff. Like, he is good at what he does. Mm-hmm. He's not just a whiny, like, obnoxious kid who just tells you off, like, what happened off screen.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. All right. So let's get into this. The Boys.
Yeah.
Not a lot happens off screen in The Boys.
Everything's on screen.
Everything's on screen.
Literally everything.
All right. So before we get into this, I got a couple warnings. One, spoilers.
Yes.
All kinds of spoilers. This is one of the rare shows that I feel like rare anything for me where I think a spoiler really will affect your viewing experience, because there are some pretty major twists that are pretty important, and not even just twists, but just plot beats that are really important and that are going to prevent us from talking about it if we can't be open about those plot beats. So we're going to have to talk about it. The other thing is The Boys is a hard R, very graphic series, a lot of violence, a lot of blood, some very uncomfortable adult scenes.
A lot of adult scenes.
Yeah. So, The Boys is not
very
gonna
strong
be,
language.
Very strong language. The Boys is not a show for everybody.
No,
Not a
make
show
sure
for
the
younger
kids
people.
are like deep asleep
But
before you put that one on the big screen.
It was one of my favorite shows of the last year, really. And I had not read a lot of the comics. I since have actually gone back and read a lot of the comics. I started reading them before I did the Out of Frame episode on The Boys, which you guys should check out. Also, if you haven't watched Out of Frame episode on The Boys, please do so. But I started reading the comics. I'm not all the way through. There's a pretty decent number of them, and I don't want to say I didn't get bored of them, but they're it's tough. Like the as dark as the show is, the comics are way darker. And what happens in the comics and with all of the characters, and it's largely the same characters. It's Billy Butcher in the show, played by Carl Urban. Jack Quaid plays Huey. There's Mother's Milk and Frenchie and Kimiko and like they're all still in the comics. Basically all the major characters are the same. Homelander, all that stuff is largely the same. There's a much broader cast of superheroes. In the Seven are still the Seven, but also there's a lot more superheroes out there doing a lot more stuff, and the Boys, the team that is sort of battling the superheroes, actually has a lot more interaction with a lot of the side groups, because it's more of, you get a lot more of them working their way up to dealing with the Seven. So there's a lot more like of them spying on people and like going to confront some of these lower level teams so they can get information and stuff like that. But all of the Boys are not good guys either. So it was a tough read, and I kind of gave up at some point just because I don't know, it's maybe 4 or 5 like major books in, I don't know, 6 or 7, and I just got tired of like subjecting myself to like really terrible people.
Yeah.
But actually the boys in the show are pretty good people for the most part. Billy Butcher, not so much.
Gray area, but they have motivations that you get.
They have strong motivations.
And you do, even though their methods are at times quite questionable, you do feel like the boys are on the side of righteousness here, and that the Supes definitely need to be taken down. So
and like Huey is fundamentally innocent.
Yes,
he's just a guy.
He's the naif.
And so this, getting into the spoiler part of this, is like what happens to Huey in the first episode of The Boys is shocking.
Oh, goodness.
And it's actually a really good case study in how you write good suspense or good surprise. Because, so, again, massive spoiler, sorry, but Huey has a girlfriend, and the entire setup is just, here's this wonderful relationship between these two people who really love each other, and she's just picking him up as he gets off of work, and they're just going to go out and have a good time. And she steps barely off the curb in a quiet street. It's a city, but there's not cars whizzing by or anything. Quiet street.
There's no traffic on that
barely
street.
Off the curb, and then gets obliterated by a superhero A-Train speedster.
The Flash.
Just running right through her. Which, couple things about that. First of all, that's what would happen if you were in the path of the Flash. So take note, the Flash is insanely powerful and scary, way more so than, sorry, not to go on a horrible tangent, but like Barry Allen is a fun character, and he's always been like all the Flashes really are like lighthearted, good, really good dudes. Well, not all of them, because there are other speedsters in that world, but whatever. Barry Allen, really, really like fun guy, but like insanely powerful.
Yeah.
Like what the Flash can actually do is god tier.
It is terrifying.
Stuff, and it's terrifying. And the Boys takes that idea and just runs with it like, well, what if you had the Flash, but he also didn't really care what happened to people, you know? And if somebody who is impervious to, basically Impact as a superhero runs at 800 miles an hour and hits you, problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
that's a big mess to clean up.
It's a big mess, and Huey's girlfriend basically explodes, and it's shocking.
Yep.
So Huey has a good reason for not liking these people.
Right.
And before this incident, Huey is a big fan of the Seven. Like, he's a fanboy. He's got posters on his wall. He's got little bobbleheads. He's got like those little Funko Pop figurines. He's got it all.
And I think that's part of it is like what you realize is that Vought Industries that sort of created all these heroes is really a branding company.
Yeah.
Now, people got mad at me for saying this because, first of all, the thing I've noticed about doing Out of Frame is one of many things, is if you talk about a movie for which there is a comic book, and even if you very explicitly say, I am talking about the show or the movie or whatever, people will still come and tell you what happened in the comics.
If you had read the book.
If you'd read the comics, I have read the comics, but I was talking about the show. And the show, in the comics, Vought, even from the beginning, is understood to be a government contractor. They're understood to be a military contractor, and one that's kind of out of favor, actually, for a lot of reasons that the comics get into. But in any case, they don't make that mistake because what I said in the episode is really that it doesn't make sense for Vought to be anything other than a government contractor, because to not to not be liable for what they're doing, to like even get the funding for it in the first place, you would literally have to be part of the military industrial arm. There's just no way you could exist. But in any case, in the show, at least in season 1, really they're like an entertainment branding company. They've got these celebrity superheroes, and the majority of what their day-to-day work is social media, and it's movies, and it's brand
marketing.
deals and marketing. And
I think this is the part that feels the weakest for me. I think the show, like the characters themselves, the motivations across the board, good and bad characters, quote unquote, all have believable motivations.
Yeah.
But kind of, off of what you were saying with obviously they'd be a defense contractor. But also if there was real superheroes that were just running through people and could just,
you couldn't brand your way around that.
There would be no way people would just be okay with this.
No.
And I know it's like, capitalism can make you blind. And it's like, no.
Well, and they just pay people off and pay people for non-disclosure agreements. But the thing that people always forget about that kind of stuff is that there are way more people on the outside of those NDAs than there are on the inside, right?
Yeah.
And so this is how you get, exposés like recently not that recently, but I don't even remember what it's called, but the documentary about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. Right?
Oh, right.
I forget what the documentary's called.
There have been a couple.
But the one where she's actually in it. And,
I don't remember.
Well, in any case, whatever. The story of Theranos is a really interesting one because it's basically somebody who was like, I don't know if she just believed her own hype or whatever, but like she made claims about a medical device that really couldn't ever be backed up. And the thing is, you see stuff like that will happen from time to time.
And if it were true that Theranos' product, if it had existed, really would have revolutionized the way that blood work is done. Yeah. And I was super excited about that because I get a lot of blood work done. Yeah. So I was very excited about Theranos. And then it just all fell through. And I was like, I hate it here.
The idea of the technology was that you could basically take one fairly small blood sample and then just run 1 million tests for it and just get every conceivable, bit of medical information out of it. It is an incredible sort of magic kind of technology that I do also actually think we will eventually kind of have at some point.
We'll get there.
It was believable enough for a lot of people to go, oh, this feels like the next phase, Problem is, it was a lie. And it happens, but also we know it's a lie because a lot of the people that worked for her, and her investors and a bunch of other people, and reporters were all looking at it going like, I don't know if this makes any sense. I don't think this works. And then reporters start talking to engineers and they start talking to other people. The problem with all these things is always like that those kinds of conspiracies can't really be contained.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's the weakest point of the show, and maybe it feels like a little bit of a side questy-ish, but like it's a big driving force for the entire storyline, plotline.
Major part of the show,
And the whole time I'm just like, everything else feels really relatable. All of them, even like Homelander's motivation, like I get it. Without spoiling too much, like you just get it. Why he's just a psychopath.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's the reason why I love the show so much, and the reason why I was really looking forward to season 2, and why I'm actually enjoying season 2 quite a bit so far. But the show is really well written, and it's character driven.
Yeah, the character work is outstanding in the show.
People do things in the show for reasons that fit their actual personality, their motivation, their backstory, the information they have at the time. There's not a lot of Deus Ex Machina stuff where like somebody comes out of nowhere to do something magic or like no. You mentioned Homelander. Homelander, has Homelander's a Superman kind of analog.
He is Superman.
Right? He is Superman. He is Superman. Absolutely. He's Superman.
And Dark Noir's Batman.
Dark Noir's Batman.
We got.
Yeah, we've got this. Look, the 7.
It's the not Justice League. It's the Injustice League.
It's the Injustice League, except for there's also an Injustice League in DC, so
Whatever.
You can't use that either. But yeah, you could use it. You could have used the Injustice League, except for the Injustice League exists.
Whatever.
But the Injustice Society exists. Whatever.
Oh, excuse
and actually,
me.
the Injustice Society is in Stargirl. That's the main.
It's the Evil League of Evil.
Evil League of Evil.
Meanwhile,
Bad Horse.
Does
Does anybody listening to this actually get the Bad Horse reference? I hope you do. Look,
My husband does.
look, audience.
This is very important.
This is very important. A long time ago, Joss Whedon did something great. It doesn't always happen, but it happened this time. Look up Dr. Horrible if you haven't seen it.
Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Yeah.
Oh, with MPH.
Yes.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And Nathan
It's the
Fillion.
Evil League of Evil.
And
Yes.
Felicia Day.
Yeah.
It's outstanding.
It is
It's
outstanding.
very funny.
It's also what happens when writers strike and then writers don't actually strike, which was kind of funny. It's like we're in the middle of the writer's strike and they're like, we're still going to write and produce a thing, but it won't be union, therefore it's fine. I don't know.
And better. What?
And better? Oops.
You know what I remember from the writer's strike?
mind.
They had an extra season of Big Brother. Don't need writers for this because it's all real.
Well, that is a big part of why we got so many reality shows. But anyway, going back to the point, the 7 is the Justice League. I mean, it's got a Batman, it's got a Wonder Woman, it's got a Superman, it's got a Flash, it's got an Aquaman. Who am I missing? I guess Starlight is the only one missing, but the other one was an invisible, translucent. It was the previous, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But like all of these characters, I understand, and they take the time to actually give me a sense of who they are, what they're interested in, and even characters that don't get a lot of screen time. Actually, I know instantly what kind of people they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like Huey's dad.
Like Huey's dad, for example. Huey's dad's like trying to get Huey to stop.
Simon Pegg is trying to get Huey to stop.
Well, so Simon Pegg, this is an interesting thing. In the comic, in Garth Ennis' original comic, Huey, the character, the design of the character, is modeled after Simon Pegg.
Oh, he does look like him, yeah.
He is Simon Pegg. If you actually look at the comics,
if you made this TV show 12 years ago, then Simon Pegg would be...
That's
Huey.
who you
exactly
cast.
right.
Yeah.
And that's why Simon Pegg ended up being in.
That's why it felt right.
But,
it's a good touch. I like that.
But yeah, he's a nice guy who's just trying to be like, look, man, like you can't make this your whole life. Like you're gonna
You need to calm down. Just sit down and watch Remington Steele with me.
Yeah,
take the money and let's go. Let's move on with our life.
Yeah. Just let it go.
Which is it's like kind of apathetic or nihilistic or it's just whatever. But honestly, it's just kind of realistic. It's just like you're not gonna win.
Most people do not have it in them to make that decision to just throw everything
Yeah.
in their life away
Yeah.
to go pursue this one thing. It is the realest expression of that, like I've seen in a long time
For sure.
in these kinds of shows.
And Huey, I think especially, is one, a really pretty good guy, and two, he's very sympathetic. Like because of everything that happens to him, because you're tracking like just his life from the beginning before he even has a reason to be, you know, like you really get a good sense of who he is and why it's so important to him that this all went. You know, when everything goes wrong, why it's so important that he makes it right or tries to make it right for himself. So I don't know. I don't know what you want to talk about as far as like if you want to get into the plot or whatever. I don't know if it's worth it really, but like the basic plot is essentially the boys are trying to bring down Homelander, and it's hard. And they don't.
Yeah.
So, yet maybe
we'll see.
Right.
I think my biggest questions going forward are there's more to me than I feel like what we've had so far about them not being part of the government. I have a suspicion that they actually are somehow.
Well, season 2 gets into this a little bit, so I don't know how much of spoiling season 2 I want to do, but we do learn Vought's origins in season 2.
Yep.
Have you gotten there? You haven't gotten there
I have
yet.
not.
So I don't want to spoil this. We do learn their origins, and it does address my my Out of Frame episode, and pretty directly.
It does.
So,
but
they're listening.
Maybe I had some. No, I didn't, because it's just straight from the comics. It's exactly what the comics did.
And then the other one is Black Noir. Obviously, is a pretty badass superhero, but like, what is he?
Oh, so Black Noir.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he has any powers.
He is Batman.
He does. He has some powers.
What are his powers?
Other
than making a great cup of matcha.
This is not a big spoiler. Regeneration, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, because he gets...
So
like Kamiko?
Yeah.
They're obviously hiding something because he's got the full Tenet gear on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just the gag. You know,
maybe he's a Deadpool analog.
I think he takes the helmet off.
He is kind of a Deadpool analog, actually. That might be a better
without
one
the witty banter.
But you know, you need Batman. This is modeled off of DC. It's not modeled off. I mean, there's very little Marvel. In this, but yeah,
there's something more. Mm-hmm. It's like Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Oh yeah, I think there's that. This is the other thing too. I was saying with the comics, there are a lot of other superhero teams. There are a lot of like B grade teams. There are teams of superheroes that used to be in the 7, or one of them used to be in the 7, and then they got like demoted, like booted out.
Sent to Sandusky.
Yeah, pretty much. and honestly, like they range from being like frat boys who should never have the powers that they've got because all they do is, you know, binge drink and wreck up things and hurt women and do all that, to, you know, the A team, you know, the 7 of demigods who are amoral or immoral and who are, you know, murdering people and doing whatever they want, you know. And some of this, I mean, look, to get to the point about the actual themes of the show, I mean, or themes of the comic, really, it's not a very original idea now, but I think, you know, it came out of an era where we were starting to take, like, Watchmen and stuff like that, where we're deconstructing superheroes and saying, like, well, what if they weren't all good? What if they did not have the moral structure? What if they, you know, what if they were raised wrong? You know, so you end up with, like, Watchmen and Superman Red Sun and you know, and not only that, but, like, also you've got a long run of, like, anti-hero stuff. Garth Ennis did great runs on The Punisher, on Judge Dredd. He created Preacher, which, you know, is another show that's on TV now. All of these things. And by the way, I don't want to be inside Garth Ennis' brain because it's dark in there. But so he's exploring those themes a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, this is the only anti-superhero franchise, movie, TV show that works. And I think the reason why is because It's basically just all the superheroes you grew up with, but just put in our own world. It's New York City. It's not Metropolis or Gotham. It's real decisions faced by real people, and you don't have to explain why Homelander is freaking Superman. You already know what he can do.
Yep.
You don't have to go down the whole origin story. Well, I guess we kind of.
Well,
but you don't.
You need their origins. The reason you need their origin stories is really only to explain why they do what they do. And honestly, a lesser series would have skipped all of that.
Yep.
I'm glad the series doesn't skip that, because it's really easy, especially with villains, to just be like, well, they're bad.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy, so he's bad.
Yeah.
He's
we
bad
said so.
because he's
So
bad.
he's bad.
Yeah.
But now you're like, well, Homelander was like test tube baby
I get it.
raised in a lab in like a horrifying, like completely inhuman.
Right.
He has no empathy.
Right.
He has no interest in morality because
Why
No
would it
sense
be?
of
he had no way to model
boundary.
any of that when he was growing up. He had no.
So he has no way,
nothing.
no framework to set up healthy boundaries
No.
with his relationships with other people.
And so this gets creepy in the show, but like he has a mother fetish,
Yep.
but which he's like, all right, but again,
It makes sense.
believable, because what he wants more than anything is the one thing that he had none of from infancy.
Yeah.
He had no affection. He had no mother. He had no father. He, like I said, he had no role models, but he also had no. We were talking off mic earlier today about the need for affection for infants and things. And the reality is, like, if you don't do that, babies grow up weird.
Yeah.
I mean, in an environment where you don't get any attention or any human contact or anything like that, bad stuff happens, And this gets to, you were mentioning, I mean, even if you think about the lockdowns and stuff like that, it's something that I mentioned on the Brave New World episode is like when you're isolating people, when you're trying to control everything that they do, when you're not only removing their autonomy, but also removing contact with other people, it's just a breeding ground for depression and insecurity and really bad consequences.
Yeah.
And you see all of that in The
Yeah,
Boys.
you do.
And all the superheroes are basically the same. Like they're either directly created like in a lab, kind of like Homelander. At least he was like the first one, and then they started like kind of
Making sure they didn't raise him anymore in a lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They started like making sure that they were still with families or whatever, except for they were always treated really weird, and like basically everybody. It runs the gamut. Annie, obviously, but Annie has trust issues partly because her parents essentially sold her life to Vought, basically. So go figure.
And Annie's mom is living vicariously through her
Yep.
daughter in the way that
Yeah.
too many moms do.
So, when we did the episode on Superman, and the thing that's so important to me about Superman and what I said in the episode is part of what makes him such a morally grounded and great character is because he had parents.
Yeah.
And this is why I always think it's funny when people do the thing where they're like, oh, he's an orphan, he's the last of his kind or whatever. No, he's not an orphan. He's got great parents, and that's why he's good. He's, I mean, you can talk about genetics or whatever else going into that, but the fact is, like, he had good philosophy, good role models. He had good people to look up to. All of the superheroes and The Boys, not so much.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad result.
Yeah. I mean, it's just real life. Well, outside of test tubes and being, it's like A-Train kind of goes through his backstory. Like, wait, no, we don't want to talk about you finding out that you're fast by outrunning a bullet in the projects. And it's like, okay, this is real people situations. Like Annie's story is obviously with getting superpowers, but like dealing with divorced parents, and that obviously gonna, like, why did dad leave?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Like, it's just very believable, and I think that is the best thing that the show does, is that it has these moments for pretty much every character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think it would not work if they were just bad because evil.
Yep.
I don't think that would play the same way. I don't think, because so much of it is also, the people who get involved, like there's even inside the 7, there's gradations of bad.
Yeah. For sure.
And there's Homelander bad, and then there's like Queen Maeve's sort of ambivalent or not,
her
apathetic.
apathy.
There's Black Noir, which is still kind of a mystery.
That's what
mystery.
I will see.
And there's, the Deep, who's just he's just a bro who's, creepy and,
takes it too far.
Has a lot of
self-image problems. And
yeah.
All right. So kind of wrapping this up, recommend The Boys?
Tentatively, conditionally, I recommend The Boys. This is not going to be for everyone.
No, it's not.
Okay. And that's okay. But it is an ensemble show with very complicated characters.
Yep.
If you're not willing to invest some emotion into this series, skip it.
Fair.
You really need to latch on to someone in the show. You're probably going to find someone in it that you identify with because it's got a huge cast.
I'm hoping not Homelander.
Hopefully not Homelander, yeah. But, I mean, you can
Try
at least...
not to latch onto that guy.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to find someone that you're going to sympathize with. It's to some extent.
Yeah.
And you will become emotionally invested in this. So if it's not your jam, it's not your jam. Skip it. But I liked it.
Yeah. So I said earlier that I didn't watch this when it first came out last year, mainly because a lot of binging, but also it just seemed a little too dark for me because, I just don't want a lot of dark stuff in my life right now. Just like that kind of hanging over. But
especially now.
Yeah. But I got into it, and while it is very bloody and gory, it's not as dark as I thought it would be. I thought it would just be like this bleak, punishing, just everything is awful. There's no redeeming quality in humanity, which a lot of these shows, a lot of these like anti-hero things do.
Yeah.
But this doesn't. It's actually very, very, it has a lot of humanity in it.
It does, and there are a lot of redeemable and redeeming aspects to it. Again, this is why I don't think I cared for the comic as much, because I feel like the comic really is, it's kind of relentless. And like Huey, and I don't really like Huey, and I don't really like anybody, I don't like Butcher. And that's my issue with the comic, is that like it is exactly what you expected this to be, which was like bleak. And like you don't really have an escape of like, there's nobody who's like actually being a really good person. Mm-hmm. But Huey's still good. And Butcher, for all of the kind of terrible things that he's willing to do to accomplish his goals, doing it actually for pretty good underlying values.
Yeah.
And the other guys, like Frenchie, I don't really know that much about, and you'll never really know a whole lot about him. But Mother's Milk, I think also pretty good guy. And even as we've learned in season 2 a little bit more about his backstory is pretty good also. It's not driven by some hard revenge thing or whatever. It's driven by justice, really, more than anything, which has been good. So yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. So I highly recommend this, which is surprising. Going into this, I would not have expected that, but I think it's probably one of my favorite shows going right now, and looking forward to the rest of season 2.
I'm with you. All right. With that said, that concludes this part of our podcast. If you are a patron of the show on Patreon, stick around, and we're going to have an extended discussion about another Garth Ennis-themed program. Dread, which is also Carl Urban. So it's a Garth Ennis and a Carl Urban connection. But if you're not, thanks for listening or watching, perhaps. If you are not a subscriber, please check out the YouTube channel that we have linked below. We have all of the various ways that you can find the podcast on pretty much any podcast platform you want. And if you like what we're doing, please consider going to patreon.com/outoframeshow and becoming a patron. We'd love to have you, and you'll get extra bonus content like what we're about to go into. And for everybody else, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.